we got the old crew together and decided to head to Refuge. Here we are exiting the heads. It's a very benign day. It's blowing maybe 5 to 10 knots from the southwest. We're on the last of the flood tide. Slack water is at 1 o'clock. It's presently around about 11:30, and as you can see, very benign conditions. A little bit of water moving about, but no problem at all. We're doing roughly 7.5 through the water and 5.3 to 5.5 over the ground. And by the way, that was the cabin boy cleaning the windows for me. Oh, and this was the weather forecast on Predict Wind. And by the old crew, I mean the original crew that sailed the boat from Strahan back to Hobart. We got the band back together. And that consists of my brother Mark, who's an Olympic swimmer, Greg, who's an Olympic diver, and of course we do what we do best as brothers do. Now, what we didn't know was that before we left, we couldn't work out why the autopilot wasn't working. We did discover this, though. Might have had something to do with it, don't you think? Anyhow, here's our track down past Lip Trap around the bottom of the prom. Then we had one of the blackest nights. This is how dark it was. There was no moon, no stars, and it was no autopilot. Painful. Then the sun comes up, and this is why we do it. We arrived at Refuge. It was absolutely magnificent. Perfect day, very light easterly blowing, and the beach was looking magnificent. The water was crystal clear. We launched the dinghy. Then we decided to have an explore. What a beautiful place this is. The water was so clear we could see the fish swimming around, so we caught a few. There were people on the beach, but not many, and the day just got better and better. We're thinking of having a competition to name this rock, and we couldn't think of any while we were there. For the whole time we were there, even when we left, there were a couple of powerboats poked into a little hole down the western end. And of course, what do you do when you stop? Yeah, eat and drink. Anyway, this is how magnificent Refuge is. But of course, the weather always changes, and after the second morning we were there, we woke up to this. It was quite overcast, quite warm, but raining. Forecast wasn't looking good, so we decided to head around to the west side of the prom. And we ended up at this magnificent little bay called Refuge Cove, and did some iPad art, and of course, broke out the roast. Yeah, we eat pretty well with a freezer on board, but I forgot to tell you that the reason that we moved around to the west side was that there was a howling easterly coming, and it blew like this. Looks pretty black and ugly. We had some bullets coming through that little saddle there. But check this one out. Yeah, that blew the top of the water. By the way, we invented this fantastic new thing called a flopper stopper, and it works a treat. Stops the boat rolling. But you can see our track on the plotter was pretty interesting from all of the yawing about. Anyway, after some more iPad art, it was time to head home. And we actually headed home into pretty much an amazing storm, but not much wind, just rain. There's something quite mesmerising about motoring along in a calmish sea towards a lightning show. Interesting stuff. Well, there's Mark looking fairly mesmerised. Pretty miserable out there. Lucky we've got a pilot house. Nice to be able to shut the door and steer from inside. But the weather cleared and pretty soon we were visited by some happy players who just wanted to play with the boat, jumping in and out of the water in front of the bow, and then disappearing, then coming back. They were having a wow of a time. That's where we'll leave Wingara this time, but stay tuned as we start the next circumnavigation of Tasmania.